You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
I'm sorry I've not been in touch. It's, I saw something, I think it was earlier on today or something, or yesterday, I can't remember, talking about your court case and you might end up in jail for 30 years. And I was like, bloody hell. Oh my God. The saga is still continuing. Poor Kirk. Jeez Louise. So listen, it's Sunday night. It's very late. It's almost like 10. I just want half an hour of your time to update us about the lunatic world that you find yourself in for being an ethical doctor who is doing the right thing during COVID, and now you might end up with 30 years in prison. I mean, I don't even know if that's true or not, but Trump's in power now, Bobby's in power, and I would have thought they would just let you off the hook and everything's all right. So I'm going to shut up now. Can you please update me and the audience? And if there's any request you have, can you make it about your case and your current situation? Over to you, my friend.
So, hey, Ahmad, thanks for having me back. I think this is we've talked multiple times with our third show we've done together. I really appreciate you helping me out, helping us out, really. There's still two of us that are being persecuted, I guess is a better term. In short, just so your listeners know, I started out in 2020 treating people for COVID, and then that morphed into starting a vaccine clinic. I probably treated 800 to 1,000 people during the 2020 timeframe, into just even up to last week, and I did it all for free. In early 21, we hear about the vaccines being launched. We hear about the mandates. We hear about inability to kind of go to work, inability to kind of keep a job. You can't even go to the grocery store. Gyms are shutting down. I mean, the whole shooting match, right? You've been through it. We've been through it. And so I opened up a vaccine clinic and just started treating people the way they wanted to be treated. They came to me, and they wanted an alternative treatment. After full informed consent, looking at a blank piece of paper that says intentionally left blank on the ingredients of the product that they wanted me to inject, I chose to go a different route, and gave them, gave them saline shots, I guess. Treated kids initially with full parental consent, and took care of them the best that I knew how. I'd read all the studies just like you had, just like everybody else had. All the ferrets had died, all the rats had died, and the mRNA treatments and lipid nanoparticles and all that stuff. And so I just said, this has never been tried in humans. And all of a sudden we're telling everybody in the world that, you can't participate in society until you get a jab. It just was outrageous to me. And it's still outrageous. It's outrageous that people are still doing this. It's outrageous that they're still on the market. It's outrageous that, we kind of do these half-assed things where, we're not going to give it to healthy kids. And then we're not going to give it to healthy women that are pregnant. And then when you look at the indications, they consider pregnant women as a risk. So, which is it? You're going to give it to pregnant women because they're healthy? You're going to give it to pregnant women because they're at risk of getting COVID? It's just, and I've seen your posts. I completely agree with them in terms of the, just the full-on assault on humanity, and everything that's happening right now. So it's crazy. So that's where I'm at. My trial starts tomorrow. I truly did think that this was going to go away. I truly thought that with Trump coming into office and RFK coming in as Secretary of HHS, that it was going to, really kind of turn the page on this whole COVID thing. I truly thought that RFK was going to come in and, just remove and reverse and rescind the state of emergency. That's all that needs to happen. You reverse and rescind the state of emergency in the United States, the PrEP Act protections here in the U.S. go away, then that means that the pharmaceutical companies can be sued because there's nothing that's FDA approved. Then these, vaccines, the liability protections go away, and these companies will just, as soon as the state of emergency comes out, the companies are going to pull everything off the market. And that's all it takes. You don't need to talk about COVID. You don't need to talk about vaccines. You don't need to talk about anything. You just rescind the state of emergency and we're done. But we're still here.
Is that within Bobby's power? Because people keep saying to me, oh, but he's not in Congress and he's just an appointed official and it has to go through Congress. And that's why, he can't do these things. And they give all these excuses. But what's the point of getting Bobby into power if he's still going to approve the RSV vaccine, the next spike vaccine, and God knows what else? I mean, to me, it was very simple. You just simply say, I'm going to remove this Immunity Act, the PrEP Act, and you just open the floodgates to lawsuits, and suddenly the companies are just going to pull all their drugs. So can you specifically just outline what does Bobby need to do, and does he have the power to do it?
He's the only one that has the power to do it. Everything according to the PrEP Act comes to the HHS secretary. It's not the president. It's not Congress. It is the HHS secretary. And that is why Javier Becerra, prior to Biden leaving office, extended the state of emergency until the end of 2029. So he extended this for 5 years. We all know that there's no more emergency. We all know that there's COVID is, again, you and I have had conversations. Does it exist? Does it not exist? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, he can rescind this, and he's the only person that can. And like I said, he doesn't even have to talk about vaccines. He doesn't even have to talk about COVID. He doesn't have to talk about anything. He just says, hey, we are now no longer in a state of emergency, so therefore, I'm going to rescind it. It's just one statement. I rescind the current state of emergency, and it's over.
And the current state of emergency, what something that the HHS has proclaimed?
Yes. So when this first started in February of 2020, Javier Becerra, actually at the time it was Alex Azar, was Trump's HHS secretary. According to the PrEP Act that was passed by Congress, he is the sole person that can do this. And he started a state of emergency, and from that point on, it's just been continued every 6 months, every year. It just gets,
Sorry, the computer froze there for a second. You were saying it all started in 2020 when the then HHS boss declared the state of emergency. Is it? So it's not an act. It's not legislation. It's just a declaration from the HHS. Is that right?
Yes, but it comes in under the PrEP Act. In a portion of the PrEP Act, it gives the Secretary of HHS the sole purview to declare a state of emergency. And Alex Azar did that in 2020, and it's been extended ever since then. And then last year, Becerra extended it for 5 more years. And the only reason that's being done is to protect the pharmaceutical, industry. That's it. Because there's no more state of emergency.
Yeah. So just in case people don't know, the PrEP Act stands for Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act. And it's a US federal law that was passed in 2005, and it gives sweeping legal immunity to pharmaceutical companies, healthcare providers, and government entities, but only during public health emergencies. And it's the PrEP Act authorizes the Secretary of Health and Human Services, HHS, currently Bobby, issue a declaration that provides legal liability protection to vaccine manufacturers, drug and device makers, government agencies, medical personnel, distributors and planners, but as long as they're responding to a declared public health emergency. Now, what kind of immunity? So it's immune from lawsuits for death, injury, side effects, malfunctioning products. Even if negligence is involved, as long as they were following the federal guidelines, they're good to go. So it shields the vaccine manufacturers, such as Pfizer and Moderna. It protects those who are developing and administering those tests and treatments. And it allows for emergency use of unapproved products that have been rushed through. Basically, it's a bit of it creates a legal black hole where you have no recourse if you've been harmed by the government and a government-endorsed medical product, especially when they are mandating this product. I mean, he's just totally screwing you over. Your total rights have gone out the window.
Right.
And what you're basically saying is what I've been saying, which is Bobby, HHS secretary, can overnight go, right, I'm declaring there's no longer an emergency. And the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. Now,
Correct.
Kirk, why is he not doing that?
I have no idea. I mean, I know that it's political pressure. I know that it's probably coming from the White House. I know some people that Bobby wanted to hire that he actually hired on the spot. And then 2, 3, 5 days later, 6 days later, those people that got hired on the spot never got a phone call back. And when they contacted the office again, they said, I'm sorry, we've moved on and hired somebody else. So I think there's pressure coming from above. I'm presuming it's coming from somewhere in the White House. And, I've got to, I don't know. Susie Wiles, Donald Trump's chief of staff, is the ex-chief legal counsel for Pfizer. So there's, some conflict there. She certainly doesn't want a lot of bad press coming out of, any of the news about Pfizer and the bad things that the jab is doing and the injuries that it's causing. And so I have to presume that that's part of it. But look, all of these people, and you've seen them and heard them, and you see them on X and talk to them. I see them every day. Mary Talley Bowden is treating them every day. A lot of docs, Peter McCullough, Pierre Corey, all these docs that are out there that are treating these people, we're getting bombarded by the injuries that are coming through. And yet nothing is happening. And all of us are, single message, stop the shots. Just stop the shots and be done and move on. Bobby has been campaigning for the last 20, 25 years about, hey, the damages and the injuries to kids with autism and autoimmune diseases and diabetes and, neurologic problems and ADHD and asthma, you name it, from A to Z. And he's been talking about it for the last 20, 25 years. And now he has a chance to do something. Okay. And it's just kind of like it's this slow roll to China. It's just, I don't get it. It shouldn't be that hard. Maybe he's worried about his safety. I don't know, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Marty McCary, Jay Bhattacharya, how is it that we have the Surgeon General of the United States, who is supposed to be one of the most experienced people in the country as far as kind of like just general public health, has been nominated as Casey Means, who doesn't even have a medical license to practice medicine. She quit her residency 6 months before she was done. But I guess the reasons why she quit it makes sense. She didn't believe in the system. I get it. Okay. But keep your license, continue to practice medicine. She doesn't do any of it. And then on the other end, RFK is calling for everybody. I guess he backed off of that a little bit just a few days ago, but he's calling for everybody to have wearables. Well, who owns a wearables company? Gee, Casey Means owns a wearables company. So, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's kind of where we are in our society these days, right? And in the meantime, people like you losing their license because you can't practice anymore, you don't want to practice anymore. People like me being prosecuted and persecuted because I did the right thing and took care of my that I could have saved. Product that was given to me wasn't used on anybody else, right? So I didn't give it to my patients, therefore it couldn't be given to them because it expired. And so therefore it was a double whammy.
And you made no money out of it. And you'd never claimed any money from anyone. So how did you defraud anybody? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I didn't charge anybody. I didn't charge anybody to treat people for COVID. I had people knocking on my door. I had people texting me. I had people coming to my office. I took care of people. I took people out of the hospital because they weren't even being treated appropriately. I had people that were being treated with remdesivir that I got out of the hospital, brought them home, started IVs on them, went by there twice a day, make sure that, I was giving them steroids and giving them treatments and everything else. Didn't charge a dime. I had one patient that demanded to pay for the cost of the IV therapy and everything else. So she would come into my office twice a day, and I charged her just to pay for the 2 hours that my nurse was there and the product that was there. I never made any money. I asked people to donate to a health independence organization that was helping pass laws here in Utah to prevent mandates, to prevent mask mandates, to prevent kids from being required. No, we did. We passed a law in the state of Utah that said that the health department, who had the blanket ability to call for mandates, and for the whole state, now only has 30 days. They can call it for 30 days, but beyond that, it has to go to Congress or has to go to our state house and representatives and everybody else to actually change the rules and change the laws and make sure that it gets extended. So we did that. We made all those changes. It's now a fine. You're fined up to $100,000 if you require people to get a COVID vaccine or any vaccine and don't give them the alternative to have a waiver. Okay. So, but some people just don't know about it, but still it's, we did all that. And I was part of that. I went and testified at the state house and the Senate committee hearings, and we had those laws passed partly because of what we did. And yet here I am,
Tell me about your court case tomorrow. Tell me about your court case. And what I want to know about your court case is, right, it starts tomorrow. How long roughly is it going to drag on for? Are you representing yourself? Do you have a lawyer? How much is it going to cost? What are the odds that you're going to be let go? What is the worst case scenario? All that kind of stuff.
Okay. So court starts tomorrow. We're going to have day and a half, maybe 2 days of jury selection, 12 jurors and 2 alternates out of a total of about 130 that are being brought in, probably 60, 65 on day 1, 60, 65 on day 2 as necessary. Opening arguments will be immediately following that by the prosecution. Then we'll have our opening arguments. So they're going to present their case. We're going to present ours. It's scheduled for 3 weeks. We don't think it's going to last that long. We think it's probably going to be more like a week and a half, 2 weeks. We should be done by I would guess, what is that, the 14th, so 18th, I guess, is that Friday? So we should be done by then. Then it goes to the jury. I have 2 attorneys, actually I have 3 attorneys. I have 2 that are representing me, and then I have 1 that's representing my business. So, a triple whammy. It's cost me over $750,000 to defend myself today. My co-defendant has her own attorney. So there's going to be 4 attorneys up there with 2 defendants. And right now, yes, the worst case is 35 years in jail if I get max sentence and get convicted on all 4 charges. The charges are fraud, a conspiracy to commit fraud, counterfeiting, and then the 4th charge that they brought onto me in January was destruction of government property, because one of my employees turned and said that I told her after we were indicted to destroy the rest of the vaccine that we had in the office, which is really silly because any vaccine that we had would have been long expired, because I think the expiration date was 90 days. And the last delivery I think we took was sometime in July of 2022. And the indictment was January of 2023. So regardless of whether I told her or not to get rid of it, I actually didn't. But, that's what the government is claiming, is that I told her. And then therefore that's kind of tampering with evidence, destruction of government property. So that actually has the highest risk in terms of, length of jail time.
So hold on 1 second. So Fouchy told us to not wear a mask. Then he told us to wear a mask. Then he told us to do social distancing. Then he told us to trust him because he's science. Then he told us that it's not coming out of the Wuhan lab, but it was a wet market. Then he never talked about his relationship with Peter Danzak and EcoHealth. He didn't talk about his involvement in promoting this mRNA toxic jab, which is extremely dangerous. He gets lifetime retrograde and future-grade immunity, and he gets to walk free. Bill Gates, who made money in stocks and shares by telling government leaders to make sure everybody gets vaccinated, and then, cashed in on his investment, he's okay. He gets to walk free. And all the other bad people get to walk free. But you might end up with 30 years in prison. Great. This is under Trump as well. MAGA,
right.
MAGA.
That's a very succinct way of putting it. And, Anthony Fouchy, correct. And he's been doing this for decades. The book that Bobby Kennedy wrote, again, what are we looking at, right? Bobby Kennedy writes a biography on all of the misdeeds and all the malfeasance that Anthony Fauci has had throughout his career. And yes, Joe Biden, on the eve of his, him getting out of office, writes a retrograde pardon for his son, Anthony Fauci, I think Deborah Birx, and a number of other people. So they're going to get off scot-free, at least from a federal perspective. There's a guy running for governor in Texas who says that he will actually prosecute him under state laws there. And our states have the ability to do that. And I'm just waiting for somebody to start that process. It'd be great to see somebody in Florida or Texas or Utah or Ohio or you name it. Kansas has been, at the front lines of all this. Start a state prosecution for all of the misdeeds and malfeasance and everything else that Anthony Fauci has done.
Absolutely. So let's go back to your court case. So what can people do? Can they help you in any way? Can they write to anyone? Can they create a social media storm and say, hashtag free Dr. Kirk Moore? I mean, like, what can people do?
Well, contacting their state representatives or their state, House representatives and senators would be a beginning. So contact your people that are in Washington, D.C. to put pressure on the administration to have something happen, to call to the attorney generals in their states and tell them to do something as well. Pray for us. That always helps. And we have a fundraiser campaign. I have two. It's Give, Send, Go, which was set up by my family back in 23. It's Give, Send, Go /Fight for More, the number 4, MOORE. And then I have a fundraiser. It's FUNDRAZR, and I think it's also either Stand for More or Fight for More. I can probably send you those links there.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
I've got it. Dr. Kirk Moore.
And it's all over Twitter. So yeah, I mean, a social media firestorm would be awesome. Posting short little videos and shorts on the travesty of what's happening to Chris and I, and just trying to get things to go viral. Everything that you've been doing, all of the stuff that you've been posting and reposting on our behalf helps. All of that. Mary Tally Bowden's doing it. Margaret Aranda is doing it. Actually, I don't know. I think we haven't talked since RFK actually wrote on his own personal profile that I deserve a medal for taking care of my patients, in the middle of this firestorm. He did that on his personal profile, nothing through his Secretary of HHS. To be honest with you, don't even know if he has control of that social media account. I think somebody else probably is penning some of his posts. But yeah, I mean, if he can come out and say that personally, why can't he come out and also then, all he's got to do is pick up the phone and call, Pam Bondi, say, hey, this is a travesty of justice. Tell the Department of Justice here in Salt Lake City to just stop. And, this
we need someone like Joe Rogan to listen to this and go, holy frack, poor Kirk Moore, what the hell did he get himself into? And phone his friend Elon, get Elon to call Trump and say, dude, it'd be really good for your optics if you let this guy off with a pardon. This guy's done nothing wrong. Man, it's a tragedy.
I don't even need a pardon at this point because I haven't been convicted of anything. I just need to, all they need to do is just dismiss the case. Say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake and, we're going to dismiss with prejudice and let it go. Dr. Haim in Texas was the whistleblower for the child in the Children's Hospital. He was on a transplant service over there as a chief resident in surgery. And he was posting things, and he actually, got information out to the public and to various agencies about the fact that Children's Hospital was still doing transgender surgery, even though they publicly claimed that they weren't. And the federal government, the DOJ, went after him as well under Biden. And then within 4 or 5 days of Trump taking office, they dropped his case. They just dismissed it. And I think that was on Friday, January 24th. So 4 days after Trump was inaugurated. And I swear I thought that I was next. And that, here I am, July 6th and going to trial tomorrow.
Brother, listen, you've got a beautiful future ahead of you. And you're going to go down in history as one of the greatest doctors ever. A real hero. I'm being serious. I'm not talking about these fake garbage doctors, media doctors, all about me, self-promotion. You really stood by your oath. You did what was right for the patient. First, do no harm. You literally are the breathing, living embodiment of that. And people will recognize that. If not now, tomorrow, I promise you. You're going to have a beautiful legacy. And hopefully you will get this case dismissed. But diamonds are made under pressure. You're a diamond. Just keep being you. You hold your head up high and tall. You be proud. And it doesn't matter what shit they throw at you. Even if they slap that 35-year sentence, you just be yourself. You take it like a man. You be proud and you just smile. And life is going to take care of you. It's going to be fine. I promise you. You do not let the bastards get you down, okay, Kirk? Do not let them get you down.
There's a song over that, right?
Yeah. And in your defiance, that's how you will never be defeated. Don't ever feel like, you're broken or you're on the receiving end of it. No. You are sovereign. You are a shining example of a human being. You remember that the whole time. I mean that, brother. Right, listen, I'm going to wrap up now so I can quickly edit this and publish it and get it out for tomorrow. Are there any closing remarks? Anything else you want to get off your chest, my friend?
Look, I really appreciate what you just said. It brings tears to my eyes. It's not something that I ever sought. It's not something that I ever did with any, I had people come up to me and tell me how courageous I was. I didn't look at it as courage. I was just taking care of people the way I wanted to. And I'll tell you, it's from people and support from you and my friends and the people that I've met through this journey, because the people that I knew before this journey have long since left us. And I've made a whole group of really staunch, supportive people that are close to my heart now and kind of get us through every day. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. And I'll keep you updated as the case goes on.
Please, remember what I said. You're an absolute warrior. You hold your head up high and be proud. They can break you financially, break you professionally. They can't break your spirit, mate. That's what they hate about you. That you're such a tough nut. That when everyone else bent over, you kept your head and your spine straight. And you went, nope, I'm not doing this. And they fear you. I know it sounds crazy. Superficially, they've got all the power and they've got all the police and the officers and who are you? They actually fear you. They are terrified that what you have might spread to others. Your courage, your bravery, that scares the freaking daylights out of them. But yeah, let's see where this goes, my friend. You're living one very exciting life, that's for sure.
I'll make it across and give you a big hug at one point, okay?
Definitely. It's going to happen for sure. Mate, it's going to happen. Well, listen, good luck tomorrow. Remember what I said. Your body language is very important. Yeah. And just remember, you create an energy field. Your heart sends out this toroidal magnetic field for meters and meters. That jury will sense your energy. Your energy is of positivity. Your energy is of light and good. And they will feel that. And as for the prosecution, they will feel their negative energy and the darkness. You just be you and project that energy. Okay? You'll be fine. God bless you.
God bless you.
I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and/or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.